Hey harmonizers, welcome to this video with Louie where we're going to show you a bunch of new skills that he's learning. So he's still pretty new off the track in terms of his rides because most of the stuff we do is groundwork with him. So today is actually only his 5th ride post-track under saddle. We do most of that work on the ground, but want to kind of show you where he's at and what he's learning and how it's possible to kind of use that groundwork to help your horse develop a lot of other skills. So here you can see he's super good at the mounting block, really quiet for that, walking off nice and quietly. You have to excuse my wonderful pants because it's a cold day and I wanted to wear my fleece pants. But one of the new things that we've been working on is him starting to understand how to use his body better during his flat work. And so we started teaching this on the ground, starting to teach his stretchy trot on the ground. And today is the first time putting it into practice under saddle, asking him to collect his body a little bit more, add bend into his body. So this is the first ride asking him to do some things like this. And you can see, it's not perfect. He's not super consistent, but he's understanding a little bit. He's trying. You can see him starting to reach down a little bit with his top line, being pretty soft. So he's a pretty agreeable guy, and you can see he has some really nice moments in here where we were just working on the circle and just waiting for him to find some nice lightness and softness through his body with some lateral bending and then some vertical flexion as well. And when he did a little bit in both directions, we didn't push our luck. These are all new muscles that he's being asked to develop and try and use. So we weren't going to make him do laps and laps and laps, but as part of his warm-up, just asking him to use himself in a bit of a different way that he's not been asked to do before. So that was a little look to the right. Here's a little look to the left, asking him at the walk to think about bending his body and being soft and carrying himself nicely. And then we'll take it into some trot and ask him to try to maintain a little bit of that stretchiness into that trot, asking him to be a little bit more balanced. You can see he's got some really nice moments there where he stretches down and tries different things. So after we did a little bit of our flat work, we came over and took a break and did some bridges and some obstacles and things, which he does really well. He's very sensible, very good about his feet. So this sort of stuff, he's done a lot of this stuff on the ground. And then this Liverpool, he hadn't actually done, definitely not in a long time. Can't remember if he's ever actually done it, but he goes over it no problem. And then I wanted to do the foam, which he's never done, and the little kiddie pool. But because I'm preggo, I thought, you know what, let's be smart and just do it on the ground, just in case he was upset about it or he gets caught on it, because foam can be a really weird sensation for horses. And so here he goes over and he touches the foam and he kind of somewhat goes quickly across it, doesn't really step on it with his back legs. But all in all, for a horse that's never done the foam before, I thought that looked pretty good. And then you're going to see here his second time ever going over the foam. He's been through the frog kind of kiddie pool sandbox things before. I think this kiddie pool might be new to him, but you can see I slow down. I'm going to give him a cookie with his feet actually inside the pool and then ask him to step on the foam, which this time he steps on it really quietly and walks across. So he's so sensible. He's so easy for stuff like that. So then here's a little look at Franny flying around on him, doing some jumping. So this is part of her warm-up jumping and cantering. And he did a whole bunch of new skills today for his jumping. So we're going to share with you guys some of his starting to collect a little bit as he's going around, starting to canter the jumps more, and starting some gymnastics. So that there was an attempt at a canter over a jump. So you can see it didn't all start out perfectly, but he doesn't do anything bad. He just didn't know where to put his feet. Here's going the other way. You can see he goes into a really nice soft canter after the jump. Some horses, even especially when they're going towards home, they might rush a little bit, but he's really good. And then this is his first time ever going through a gymnastic type line. So we've got a bunch of poles set up with the little jump at the end. So a little bit wiggly and awkward, but you can see he tried, and that's a lot to think about. That's a lot of poles to think about where you're placing your feet. So it's pretty challenging for him, and we're going to build that up throughout this session to actually get him to do his first ever jump bounces. But we started off with just the poles on the ground so that we could see, you know, where to place his feet and where things were. Did that a couple times. You can see he's pretty willing to try there as he comes through. Never having been asked to do things like this with the poles at the different distances like this. And we start to just kind of ease him into a little bit more of that canter afterwards. Sometimes we do the little single jump over here, which there you can see he clobbered because he just didn't know where to put his feet. So he's learning in all this process. And this is what a horse learning to jump like looks. But what we like is that Louie is so willing and he's eager to try, and he's playing around with his feet and trying to figure out what he's doing. This is his only second time ever jumping with a rider on his back. The first time was his last session with Franny, which we posted a video for you guys to see. So we're definitely upping the level of difficulty and trying a bunch more things. And the gymnastics work, so this pole work on the ground with a bunch of different poles, helps them with spacing and thinking about their feet and just becoming more aware of their feet. The single fences are good to get their confidence up, but it doesn't teach them as much how to be agile. So you can see there he had a really nice fence cantering over the jump. So he definitely has some really nice moments where he gets it, and as we got towards the end of the session too, he really started to figure it out a little bit more. But it's awkward in the beginning, and that's what teaching a horse looks like when they're trying. It doesn't mean that anybody's doing anything bad or wrong. It just, you know, when you're learning something new, there's going to be some fumbling, there's going to be some awkwardness, but you want to encourage that horse to try, and you want to praise that horse for trying. You want to try to stay out of their way as much as possible. There he broke to trot by accident, and then she asked him for the canter. He ended up getting the flying lead change there on the landing. But you don't want to make over corrections or things like that, because you don't want the horse to become nervous about the new skill. You want them to feel comfortable trying for you. So here's some little diagonal jumps where you can see he gets his leads as he's going over, and is doing so much better with his canter. He did break to trot there as he came across the center. So again, like Franny didn't get majorly after him, because you want to just let them stay slow and steady. You'd rather that than being crazy fast. And he nearly gets that last jump good, just ends up catching the pole with his one foot. So she's going to do a few more canter jumps here and hopefully smooth that out with him. We're looking for that confidence coming in. You can see he gets that jump just fine. Gets a little bit quick on the landing, but is easy to kind of bring back into a rhythm. And then here she is able to maintain the canter coming through. He gets the jump, no problem. Ends up getting the flying lead change as he comes around the corner. She's going to do a little circle here to help rebalance him a little bit, because they were kind of concentrating on that lead change for a second. And then come into the last jump here, thinking about her strides, and he actually does it pretty nicely there. So that's like a full little canter course for him, his second time ever jumping with a rider on his back. Pretty exciting stuff. He's trying really, really hard here. So we kind of did some bounce, like the grid work, and then we did some of this canter work on the jumps, and then in a second we're going to bring him back to the grid work to teach those bounces with him. So here you can see he's cantering these jumps so much better now that he's had a chance to do a few of them. So whenever you're first teaching a horse how to jump, you never want to judge them on their first jumping time or their second, even like their first week jumping. You don't want to kind of judge them too much on their jumping. You really want to give them the benefit of the doubt to try. So like there you can see he kind of tripped over the jump. That was the first time going through with the jumps raised up for the bounces, and he was kind of like, oh my gosh, you raised them. You didn't tell me you were going to put them up. They were poles before. So now he's got to think about his feet, and he's like, okay, I'm not going to hit them this time. So to me, even though he kind of hit the first one the first time through, the fact that he's smart and he doesn't touch it the next time shows me that he's learning and he's paying attention, and he's taking in the information to try new things. So that was the first time that he kind of bounced through and cantered out of the jump there. So he's starting to figure out his legs and get a little bit more comfortable with going through those bounces. Here's a little look starting off, going into the trot. She's going to come around, do those poles, and then go into those bounces there. And we're wanting to see him actually jump these little jumps. So there you can see he's actually jumping. He canters, he catches the rails. And that's just because he's got a little bit of a long canter stride. So he was finding it a little bit tricky to do a short canter stride. He hasn't really learned how to shorten his canter stride. And that distance we set at, I believe we set it at 18 feet because that's kind of what you normally do after a bounce. And there you can see he does manage to leave it upright. And for him, with his big long stride, and he is a pretty big boy, he was finding that a little bit tricky. We ended up moving it out a little bit further to a 21-foot distance, and he covers the ground so easily. So here he gets it, he gets his lead. So we're like, bam, that's it. Beautiful session, really incredible for his 5th ride post-track. Super proud of this guy. Let me know what your favorite part was.